Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. I am very excited that all of you decided to join us today, and I'm eagerly excited to introduce you to our guest. But before I introduce our guest, I want to tell you a little bit about Sagionic 1027 and why it is so important to partner with the creative realm or thoughts, right? We can call it dreams, visions, impressions. This scene just popped up in front of me. Whatever it may be, to just partner with it, because we don't know the when or the how or the why. Sometimes we don't even know the why. But in 2018, I was walking down my hall, and out of nowhere came this thought: Sagionic. I'm like, that's wild, Lord. That's wild. I've learned to recognize that as the Holy Spirit or the Lord. For some, it may be this random thought came my direction, right? So the word Sagionic, and I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. I've never heard such a word. Well, how am I supposed to look it up if I don't even know how to spell it, right? And then in my mind, I always have to have something. In my mind came Sagionic. And I'm like, what? A word was spelled to me? So I looked it up, and I don't even know how it happened, but it was like almost like I was led to the backdoor approach to a Greek dictionary. I'm blood Greek. It was in a Greek dictionary, and Sagionic means movement by movement in time. Well, let's think of something for a second. Anytime in history where something needed to happen, something new needed to change, something needed to be implemented, there was a movement. A person, one singular, started a movement which created a movement. So we've been in the midst of Sagionic all along, movement by movement in time, right? So then I looked up singular. What does just straight up Sagion mean? Well, Sagion means carriers of wisdom. So the purpose of our program is literally to display carriers of wisdom. And so with that, I would like to introduce our guest today. This is Brother Vincent Green. And I like Green because that's my dad's last name, Green, Louis Lovey Green. He was from Chicago, a brother from Chicago, Illinois. And he was like one of the most amazing men I ever knew. And after having interviewed Brother Green's wife, gorgeous wife, Linda, I know that she thinks her guy's the stud of all studs. Right, but you guys haven't sat down and had coffee with Sean and her stud Steve, okay? Which it will happen, okay? So with that in mind, I want to read a little bit about Brother Green today, so you can hear a little bit about him. And sometimes I'll pick some things out of what somebody shares with me, but Brother Green was thorough in what he sent me, and so I just want to read about our brother today, okay? He is a servant leader. He desires to make the people he works with and the people who are placed in his path better. He is an encourager. He desires to see people fulfill their dreams and how he can help them to get where they are to where it is that they truly want to go. He's extremely passionate and he wants to see men accomplish their goals and achieve everything they were intended to in their life. He has a strong desire to know how things work, and it's so funny because I interviewed this guy who said he tinkers with all these different things. Right? He wants to know the ins and outs of it. Right? Specifically, he desires to know what God wants for his life, and then figure out how to get it done. And so, if not only for his life, but in learning about Brother Vincent, it's not just for him as much as how do I help others to understand their God-ordained identity and how do they walk it out. Him and his beautiful bride are also, they're retired, but they coach marriages and have for over 20 years. I want to say it was like 25, 30 years. They've been coaching marriages. Right? So they are like together as a team, because you cannot go out there and pretend to coach unless you've got your stuff together behind the scene. Right? So I thank you for the hard work that you and Linda have put in. So his wife Linda founded a nonprofit group called Christ Centered Empowerment for Families. And their focus is on how do we make society, communities, different organizations, whether it be anywhere in the field or inside the body of Christ, how do we make them aware of signs of abuse? Right? How do we make them become
Absolutely.
aware of what does it look like if a female or her children are being abused? What does it look like if a male is in a destructive, relational environment? What does it look like? Helping to make aware um, of the, I would dare to say, the lack of relational education being given in society that helps families to thrive, right? So this is what they're in the midst of doing, and so attached to, and then also I got to read this last part because I don't want to miss this. He's also the director of operations for a nonprofit called Soul and Science, a nonprofit focused on getting students of color interested in STEM education. We also focus on helping teachers learn new skills on teaching students of color. And so I am very, very blessed and honored, Brother Green, that you could be on with us today. And today's program is all about Vincent Green. And so, what's on your heart today to share with our viewers?
Well, thank you for that great introduction. There's a lot there, and as I think about what I want to share, or who I am and what I want to share, I'll touch on the servant leader part first.
Okay.
I spent 25 years working as a store director for Target Corporation, and that was wonderful for me. It met my desire to help people succeed and to be great. That's where I honed my skills in what I call taking roadblocks out of people's way so that they can do what they needed to do. And I was very successful in that. I promoted and developed a ton of talent, as we call it, a ton of leaders, and they went on to do great things. And I could have promoted and gone on to do other things, but I was in my wheelhouse as a store director, helping people be great, and we were very, very successful, and I loved it. But part of me, struggled in that I wasn't doing what I felt was my call with my relationship with Jesus. And just most recently, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I'll pull it all together.
Oh, Sister Sean could follow
Eh,
you. I don't care where you bounce
Okay,
to. I could follow
all
you.
right, fantastic. I took a course called Living on Purpose, and it was at a church. It was church driven by our church, and it just opened my eyes to so many different things of where I can take the skills that I have to help people discover things under Christ's banner versus Target's banner. And
Ah.
that's what I'm excited about. And so the other thing that I'm really excited about is, um, and this is the tinkering part of me, the understanding. I truly believe that men need to try to do a better job of connecting to the spiritual side of Christ. And I just think, my pastor said it best on Sundays, like we tend to leave it to the women for that part of our relationship with Jesus. I think men focus on the black and white of it, while we allow our women, our wives, the women in our lives to focus on the spiritual. And I believe we're missing out. I did that for 25 years at Target. I put my
Ah.
focus on Target, and I wasn't really looking at other things to do. I knew I needed to protect and provide for my family, and that's what I did. But I missed out on so many other things, and now I'm excited because I'm retired and I can focus on those things. Um, I can learn about it. I mean, we don't, sometimes guys, and I'll speak for me, but I
Okay.
can generalize. A lot of guys, we don't ask questions. We just do what we're told. The book says this. Let's go do it. And there's a whole spiritual side of that relationship that I just don't think men take advantage of. And I for one, didn't take advantage of it. And I'm so passionate about doing that now and focused on learning, um, having my mind open. You talked
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
Sagionic, and I want to make sure I say it right.
Yeah.
And I love that because I want to see those things. I desire to see those things, and then to learn it, and then be a voice for men to say, you know what, you guys, here's something we're missing. Take a look at this, and I know it feels different because you can't put your hands on it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, but there's a whole world out there that men just don't connect to, at least in my circle. You
Okay.
know,
So
and
let me
so
ask you a question here because this is really
okay,
huge. I interviewed someone within the last week, and he mentors men, right?
okay.
He's a dad with 4 kids, but he mentors men, right? Because you think he needs the more testosterone out there in the world, absolutely, right? But he's a great dad of 4 daughters, right? But he said something that I think is so profound, and it can, and there'll be no doubt in my mind that you and he will wind up connecting, right? Because
Okay.
just the parallels are just incredible, right? But he said something, and he goes, "I truly believe that because of the breakdown of the father role, okay,
Hmm.
is that men do not realize how big and strong and mighty God is." Right? So because they don't realize how big and mighty strong he is, they think they have to be at all. So they're missing out on that component of, no, I can take the fullness of my strength as a man and attach it to God, right? And then I think of, my brain thinks just on the spot, Transformers, more than meets the eye,
There you go.
right? So you take your car self, you take your sports car self, and then you become the Eiffel Tower,
Yeah.
right? With God. And so then I asked him a question. I'm going to ask you the same question too.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the question. Do you think that in our modern day education, through creative imagination, we have silenced creative imagination by telling Johnny, Johnny, don't pick up that stick. That stick is not a spear.
Hmm.
When mankind were created to be warriors, right? They were created to divide and conquer, right? Forget King Kong. They were created to capture the city, right? They
Yep.
were created. And so, because Johnny, quit thinking like that, quit thinking outside the box. Johnny, sit down, hold your hands. I remember one of my sons, when he was in junior high, he was, the teacher had me come in for a conference, and she said, "Your son is so disrespectful." And I said, "Can you break that down?" She says, "Well, I tell the kids to hold still, and your son is like this." And he's moving, 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 moving. And I had to be professional in the moment, but I wanted to say, "Girlfriend, are you on crack? Do you not understand how intelligent my son is? And he just has to move something because his brain is going tick, 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 right? And genius brain, right? And so I believe, oh, this is so good.
It is.
In the Christian community, they would say prophesy, right?
Hmm.
But I believe that you and other men that are being, like, the alarm is going off inside of your mind, and on the subconscious, subspiritual level, you guys are saying, we are not going to let these next generations slip through the crack and not walk into the boldness of manhood that one was created to walk in.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
You know,
I'm gonna put my hands underneath my lap.
yeah.
It's all yours, Brother Green.
Well, yeah, because you got me going like four different topics, and there's like something I need to say when you
Yes,
said about your son. So, one of the things that you read about my bio
yes,
is what I'm doing with solar science, and we're trying to help teachers understand the different learning styles of kids of color. And you just described it perfectly. And it's not, it's general, it's kids in general. But because, I'm African American, we focus because we see kids of color struggling in these areas. And so you have to figure out different ways to communicate them. And what you said is exactly what we talk about. My son is brilliant. He just He's always thinking. He's always going. He's not being disrespectful. He is being who he is. he's disrespectful if he's getting up, walking around, and screaming and hollering in the class. Okay, then maybe that might be something you need to address. But he, I mean, come on. And it's
Yeah.
things, we want teachers to teach, and I get it. It's getting harder to teach, but that's the job that you said yes to. So thank you for that because I'm so passionate about that. But second, we talk about our children. I have two boys, two young men. And our young men look at their
That's
fathers for
right.
leaders. You know
That's
what?
right.
We're their role models. And I think about this connectivity with Jesus and understanding the spiritual side. My oldest is so there. He he saw it in his mom and he took it and ran with it. Okay. He looks like me. He does a lot of things like me, but he saw that in his mom and he wanted that. My younger son saw me and he saw what I was doing, and I'm black and white, and this is the way things need to make sense, and this is the way it is. And he followed that path. And thank God I get the chance to recognize that and see, you know what? I appreciate that, and I'm glad I can be a role model. But there's so many things that I can teach him now because my mind is now open to what God is trying to tell me to do a little bit differently, and I can get to him before he gets to be in his 60s. Okay. and
Uh-huh.
and I can show him
Uh-huh.
that there's this whole other side. There's this whole relationship that we need to have as men that makes us complete. And that's what I'm excited about. The other thing you talked about was you know, teaching, back in the olden days, men were taught to go to war.
Yeah.
So I'm writing the Middle Chronicles, and they're listing all the mighty men of David
That's
and the
right. That's
battles
right.
and
That's
what they went and
right.
did. And it's just so exciting to see. And that is exactly the way we're all taught. We're all protect, provide, go, and do your thing. I just want I think what you get though is that you want more. There is more, and we can have more. Um, I don't think in the past I haven't seen churches teach this. Our pastor is talking a lot about doing it now, which I think is amazing. But that's fueling my fire. The
That's
fact that he's
right.
excited about and talking about it because I think men need to understand this is a whole side of their relationship that they haven't even touched and connected with, and we get scared to talk about it because we can't control it. We don't understand it. And there's just so much potential. And I'm just like on fire to learn more and to spread and have conversation because like we're having conversation,
That's
the more
right.
I talk about it, the more excited I get about it. And, I thank you for that because this is,
Yeah. Uh,
it's
So so
feeding
let's
what I want to do.
so let's pause you for a second because this is really important because I also spoke to my other brother about this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of created to walk out as these warriors in the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are natural chemicals that happen and occur inside of a human body when they're in that electrified state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you're in that creative realm of the Creator, right? The Lord spoke a phrase to me: "If we're created in the image of the Creator, we're created to be creative. Therefore, we have a creative desire to want to create." Right. So
I
when
love
we're
that.
in that creative space, it is like as far as stuff going flying inside of you, right? And so it is actually documented. Like one of my favorite people over here is Dr. Caroline Leaf, and no, I'm not getting paid for dropping her book here, right? But Dr.
Okay.
Caroline Leaf, because she talks about the chemicals that are activated inside of a human being when they're in that
Hmm.
creative space is equivalent to cocaine.
Wow.
So, a naturally derived chemical inside of a human body, when in that creative realm, is likened to cocaine.
Wow.
Natural,
Man.
pure, doesn't destroy relationships, right? Chemical.
Wow.
And so
Unreal.
when men are shown, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like so the thought so if you were to just speak to, mankind, right? There's men everywhere. Men, mankind. What are you going to say to them about okay, who gives a rip of what happened all these other years? Right now, you can do this. What are you going to say to him?
Great question. My first thing is we have to figure out a way to tear down your walls of protection that you put around you so that you can actually be open to something that's outside your comfort zone. So what I want to talk about is, tell me about a time when you did that, when you pushed yourself outside your comfort zone, when you said yes to something that you knew there was uncertainty and you didn't know the answer. Like when you proposed, maybe you didn't really know she was going to say yes, you know, or when you decided that this is going to be my career and I'm going to make this work. My first week in the job, and you know what? I don't know how it's going, how it's going to turn out, but this is what I know I want to do. But I don't know how it's going to turn out. What is that feeling like? Let's talk about that. And then I want to transition them to the spiritual realm of Jesus and what that connection looks like. And one of the things that Linda and I talked about, and as I told her, my thought process and what's going on, it's like we we have to take that first step. We have to just take that first step and see what happens. So when you're praising and the pastor says, the altar is open, come down, feel what is happening down here. Don't look around, just take that first step. And nothing may happen. But you know what? Each step you take, you're getting closer and closer to where you're going to experience what has for you. And there's like a burning inside that just allows me to want to keep doing this. And he will feed you and reward you when you say yes. And so as you say yes each time, something is going to happen. And I just know because that's exactly what happened to me,
That's
and
right.
I
I got
I
a
can
visual.
talk
I got
about
a
those things.
visual. Watch this. I got a
Okay.
visual for you because I'm seeing this. Sister Sean can see stuff, okay?
Okay.
And the visual is this. What you just explained about mankind, this is a bow and arrow.
Hmm.
And when they're in that space where it's pulled back, because I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing, and they're right there, right there, right there, but they don't know where to send this force that is inside of them. They don't know which direction to go. This is what you're explaining. You're explaining how to get mankind in this position, how to aim in the direction of the drive in which they themselves individually each have been created to divide and conquer in the territory.
Absolutely. It's there. It's inside. And you just have to take that first step and pull back that bow and let it go and follow the direction it went. It's a great example. It really is because it's just
That
there.
wasn't my example, by the way.
Oh, it's a great. Whoever came up with this is great.
It,
Okay.
no, that would be the great I am because I just saw the
Amen. There you
visual.
go.
That's what I'm saying.
There
I
you
can't
go.
make claims. I just, oh, okay, let me explain this because I just came into the room. Okay, so
That's awesome.
share with us in, let's say, share with us a little bit about the mentoring that you and Linda have been able to walk out without sharing names, examples of, I mean, come on. I've heard it said 98% of men would rather get a divorce than
Hmm.
step into counseling.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
share with us success stories, right, that you have seen without giving names or too many details, but just share with us some of the moments you've got to observe.
Absolutely. It's so amazing when you see the transition. So we had a couple that when they came in, they were, they sit on your couch and they're way apart. Okay. So they sit on it, and we found out with this couple, I mean, he was mostly living in the garage, had set up life in the garage. Okay. But this was their last ditch effort, was to come to this organization that we work with. And it's really, really the I think the key is listening and asking questions. And as you get people to talk, and that's what I love about this organization is because they teach you how to do this.
Okay.
And as you're doing this, well, let me back up. Okay, so before we, regardless of whether you know Jesus or not, we pray
Okay.
before we start. We tell people we're going to pray, and we invite the Holy Spirit in. And then, as you start asking questions and start sharing with the people some examples and what we've experienced while asking them questions and getting them to talk, it's just amazing how the transition starts to work, and they start to think, and they start to look at each other, and they start to communicate, which they weren't doing at home. They would go their
Yeah.
separate ways. But once you get people talking and sharing how they feel and helping them formalize the words to say what they want to say versus yelling and screaming and just owning their part of it, it's an amazing transition. And these transitions take, we teach, these are 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. They come to your house, and you know they come all down and distraught, and by the end of 12 weeks, they're happy, they're smiling, and it's not like magical.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is it is work. They do their homework. If they do their homework and answer these questions, and then come back and talk about them because they can't talk about them yet with each other, you're kind of administering, great open dialogue and helping them formulate. Well, here's an opportunity to ask for more. Here's what I believe they're trying to tell you. Do you hear that? Is that what you wanted to say? And then and you teach them how to ask those questions, and or we teach them how to ask those questions. And it is fun because Linda and I will see, there'll be times when she'll see something in the guys that we need to address. And so we'll partner and we'll address that. And
Okay.
we'll go to them and say, hey, you know what? Here's something we observed. Can you help elaborate that for us, for not only for us, but for your wife?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And so, kind of like you told me earlier, we're gonna, can you elaborate on that? Can you,
Yes.
because the more you expand on it, the more you talk about it, the clearer you become, the better she will understand what you're saying. And it was amazing. And we talk about that couple all the time because it was our first
Uh,
into work, and we were very nervous in this process. We're like, we got all these years of experience, and we don't have a perfect marriage, but we want to do this. And again, it's about us. Again, like I was saying earlier, guys got to step out on faith, got to take that first chance and say, you know what, we can do this.
that's
We don't have to be
right.
perfect.
That's
He's got to
right.
guide us along the way, and he guided us along the way for 10 years. And we did this, and we loved it. And we did start doing marriage ministry at our church, and and it's just something that we're passionate about, and that's what CCEFF has
That's
developed
right.
into. It is our concern for relationships,
That's
our
right.
concern for you know people helping their family members see what a bad relationship can look like, teaching them how to help them, teaching them how to ask questions so that we can prevent it. Because one of the things that we're both, Linda and I, are both passionate about, there's forms of things that we do with domestic violence um, that can help. So, batter intervention programs, those things can help, okay, but they take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that not that people can't change, because we know God, the Holy Spirit, can change people. And so, but they have to be a willing heart. And
Uh,
that definitely takes some time to get someone who's in that situation to change. But let's just say, before the relationship went too far, that a family member was able to see signs
so good.
or learn, understand what they're seeing and be able to have a conversation with them. To be able to say, this doesn't feel right. What do you think about this? To be able to have the knowledge and the experience and the energy to say something just doesn't feel right to me. I've been taught these skills. I understand these things. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to be honest with me. I mean, if Linda's sister saw something and she asked those questions to Linda, how much easier is it for Linda to say, yeah, that's what I see, because you're family, because we have a connection, because we have that relationship. Now, at times she might have to push through some things, but that's what this is all about. I think the other thing, and I know I'm rambling because I love this
You're
topic,
not
but
rambling.
okay,
Don't even go
okay,
there. You're not. You're
all
not.
right, cool, is getting men to understand personal power versus controlling power. I don't have to control my wife. That's not that's not that's not going to work. Those relationships don't work. No one wants to be controlled. We want to collaborate. We want to work together. We want a partnership. My own personal power is that I can control my behavior, and I can create a partnership and ask questions that will direct us to achieving a goal together versus my way or the highway. And we're going to
Uh-huh.
go there together, and that's so much better than the other way.
That's right.
And so it's just, part of that. So part of our passion is teaching behaviors that model a great relationship. And I'm very excited about that. I think it's something that um, can go a long way in helping to end domestic violence, because ultimately that's what we want. If we teach people in the early stages to see signs, relationships won't go there if they feel comfortable enough based on what they've learned to address it and help them early. Because when you try to do it later, it's way too late.
That's right. And so let's think of this for a second because this is huge. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
back to the educational system. Okay? So as a leader, right? So what you learned under the corporate setting of Target
Mm-hmm.
were business skills in how to help others advance and grow, right?
Yeah.
And now here you are in the private sector, and your same goal is how do you take leadership skills to help others grow and learn, right? So now let's go all the way back.
Okay.
Regardless of where little Johnny and little Susie are living, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
little Dante and little Shantae, okay, are living,
Okay.
okay?
Awesome.
Regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do we teach teachers to teach students on, I'm going to say, appropriate human behavior, relational human behavior, right? Because you can do that with or without Christ, okay?
Yes.
An
Mm-hmm.
example comes flying to my mind, and that is in 2019, I was in Pakistan.
Okay.
And when I was in Pakistan, I was at this salon with the pastor's wife, right? And I had some leg time waiting for them to get done with their salon stuff.
Okay.
And it was one of those times where this was 48 hours, hadn't slept. You were doing this pinching in between here as hard as you can because you got to keep your body alert, right? And you're sitting there and you're high on adrenaline because you were in another country, right? So the owner of the salon came up to me and she said, and now the pastor's wife is back, and she says to me, like in Pakistan, it's Pakistanis, and then there was Sister Sean.
Okay.
Okay, it's not like here. Here we got the whole rainbow everywhere, right? But over there it was like Pakistanis and then me. So she comes up to me and she says, do you think you could speak with our employees about equalization in the Western Hemisphere? And I looked at the pastor's wife and she shook her head yes. And so I said yes. And then she says to me, you can't share everything. And so I knew what that meant. Okay, so
Hmm.
watch this. So I was to preach my first sermon ever without saying Jesus, without saying God.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, I looked across the room and there was a man. And I said, you do not need to be told it is not okay to be rough with a woman to know it is not okay to be rough with a woman. Because
So true.
instinctive, right? So now let's go back to
Yep.
the education system. If you were to rewire starting out the gates. How, because we don't have to have, okay, hello, they have not had to have the permission to teach certain things that are going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go back as if you had grandbabies? Is this all of those kids in the school district are your grandbabies? How do you begin to educate at that level? Because in essence, Brother Green, that elementary level is what you were really on a subconscious level teaching to mankind now because they didn't know.
Yes.
So how would you explain to our viewers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a great question because it you have to get back to you have to get back to the beginning, and you
That's right.
have to involve everybody. So when I say that, is I heard this put at a seminar I was listening to. It's not just the teachers because the teachers feel like, oh, so I have to put in all this effort because this happens to be a child of color. You know what? And they're so much different. They're that different. Well, and if the parents aren't supporting me and helping me understand this, then that's a problem. So that it's about the teachers, it's about the parents, and it's about the students. And those three have to work together. And so when I talk about it, it would be about focusing on those three and understanding, helping the teachers, for one, understand the background of this student. Because if the teachers understand the background of the student, so let's say, like the example you gave earlier, when the teacher said that your student was disrespectful because he's spinning a pencil and he's moving, well, that's the same thing with a student of color who might have been taught as a child that it's okay to to scream, or it's okay to, when being asked, to frantically wave my hand and say, yep, I got the answer, or to get up out of their seat when they feel like they need to move. And so the teachers need to be able to ask questions that say, okay, what, ask, take an extra step and take and ask one question. Okay, ask the student, what is happening, what do you need, I'm all the students are sitting down, so why are you standing up? And the student needs to be able to say, you know what, I just need to move, or I need to do something different so I can keep my focus. And then somewhere along the way, there's a compromise of allowing the student to be the student without being disrespectful. And we believe that that can be done. We truly believe that understanding the background of a student, understanding where they're coming from, understanding who they are, will allow the teacher to reach them in a more productive and effective way. Now, teachers will tell you, well, I don't have time for all that. And that, that's more than I'm able to do based on what I have to do with all these other students. So then it's involving, then we have to involve the parents. And the three of them, the parents and the students, and they come together and they have those conversations one on one, not one on one, but with the three of them, and they figure out a plan that allows the student to be the student, the teacher to be the teacher, and the parent to be the parent. And so it's just teaching. There's a phrase that I'm learning because I've been with SOS for Solar Science for
Okay.
like a month,
Okay.
and it's called trauma informed pedagogy. And what it is understanding the background of the student and trying to adjust your teaching style to their learning style. And yes, it's more difficult, but you're going to create successful students if you do.
That's right. And you know what I just saw as you were talking? I saw, I saw a classroom setting, and I actually just saw it just divided like one, two, three, four. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those students who can't have any kind of distractions, put them in the front. The students who, their learning style is, like this,
Yep.
put them in the next row. But in the very back row, okay, you've got kids who stand up, sit down, twirl their hair, flip their hair upside down, put their makeup on, right? Whatever it may be, right? Or like different sounds or whatever, right? Whatever that looks like, that if you had students sit in that order, instead of saying, Fred, you're out of line because of A, B, D, and C. No, Fred's not out of line. Quit trying to be God in Fred's life, right?
Exactly.
Let Fred function the way Fred was created to function. It would be like saying, okay, probably you and Linda have never been approached by an MLM. That's a laugh. Of course, you guys have.
Of course we
Of
have.
course, you have. Of course, you have, right? But in the MLMs, they tell you unless you do A, B, C, or D, you're going to be dead or dead broke by the time you get to be this age. And then you got to realize, okay, I ain't drinking that Kool Aid because that's a lie, right?
Yep.
Because there's not just one stream of income that is needed, right? So not everybody's drawn towards a certain field. Not everybody's a doctor. Not everybody's a lawyer. Not everybody's an
Yeah.
educator, right?
True.
And so we need to do the same, So I see you and Linda as generational coaches,
Hmm.
literally generational coaches, because it's not just okay. So Sister Sean's Greek, okay. So
Hmm.
it's not just so it's like, oh man, it's huge. It's huge what you guys are being called to do.
Well,
It
I
it's
love your
big.
example. I love of the classroom because it's what it says is the teachers need to be just as creative as the students are. The students, they have this unique style now, and no, everybody's not. It's not black and white anymore, and so you have to, as a teacher, be just as creative. And
That's
so
right.
that I am teaching this myriad of children with these different ideas and different thought processes. So how do I focus them in while allowing them to be who they are? And that example is absolutely perfect. It just helps you to continue to keep the children who need one thing set, need this, they're set. So this is a group and this is something that will help. And if it doesn't work, then you try something different. It's
That's right.
okay.
That's
It's
right.
okay.
That's right. Because if we think of it, okay, let's think of this for a second. So I brought up in an interview earlier within this last week that when a brother shared about watching watching the different kids, right?
Mhm.
Oh, this is so funny. I interviewed this sister, and she's, gosh, I don't know if it was you or somebody else. I don't remember who it was, but their daughter wound up being in drama. And
Hmm.
gosh, I probably interviewed too many people, but their daughter was in drama, right? When she grew up to
Uh-huh.
be in drama and got scholarships for it and is in TV. She just flew to Israel to do a video, to do a commercial. Israel, right? Her daughter
Wow.
just flew to Israel. And then she looked back throughout her daughter's life and said, oh my gosh, no wonder she was so dramatic. Gosh,
Exactly.
she was being created to be an actress, right? So think
Yeah.
of this as a parent. How many times, and you would have learned this at Target too,
Hmm.
how many times do we think we're in control of how one has been wired? Or are we to try to figure out how one's been wired and then help them to function with boundaries, taking control of their created purpose?
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Target because I had an executive who who someone said that she wasn't good. That she wasn't Target material. She ended up coming to me, and I used to call her the tornado. Okay, because she would come in and just everything's all over the place. She moves in and it's all crazy, but her people love working for her. She knew how to get results. She knew how to get the team to move and get the things done that we needed to get done. And it's just that she lacked organization in how she communicated and how she documented things. And so all I did is just allowed her to be who she is and assist her in the areas where I needed to assist her and spent time with her and focused on those things that she can still do within her craziness that she is and still get the results because we are so successful. I mean, the team was so successful, but she
Ah,
that just was not political, corporate, all these little boxes we want to put people in. She didn't have that style.
It's just because let's get real for a second. Hold up your fingers like this, brother.
Okay.
Okay, look. Out of your 10 fingers, out of your, just your 10 fingers, right?
Uh-huh.
Not one single finger has the same fingerprint.
Exactly.
Not one, right? So what are we doing trying to make these cookie cutter employees, right? These cookie cutter fill in the blank. Come on, right? Okay, let's
Absolutely.
think of flavors, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we've got, here we are in Oregon. There, I want to say there's 3,500 churches in Oregon.
Man. Oh
3,500
Lord.
church. Do you think there's different flavors and seasoning? Right?
True.
Right? There's different okay, let's think of clothes. Okay, of colognes, perfumes, shoes, stylish shoes, right? I mean, just think of all the different, creation, all the different trees, all the different leaves, and then we think every child's got to look like a maple leaf? Come on.
Exactly. It's just crazy. And we're just not, that's just not who we are as people. But companies tend to sometimes want to put people in boxes. And it was crazy to see the transition over 25 years to a Target because they are now more open to the unique leadership styles. And it's great to see. And I mean I smile and laugh and I'm happy because there's some part of that I help create because people are different and we need to take advantage of who they are so that the company can move forward because our guests that shop our stores are so unique and so different. And so, you know what? If we're just going to position ourselves toward one type of guest, we're not going to make any money. This company isn't going to work. And that's why we have to meet everybody's at least a larger perspective of people's needs. And we can do that as a company. We can do that with the people we hire, and we can do that with the relationships we create based on how we help people be great. And so, like I said, taking roadblocks out of people's way is something that I'm passionate about and I enjoy doing. And I have been successful based on the results. And so now I look forward to seeing how I do this going forward in this new role or new adventure because I'm retired and I can do that. So
That's right. That's right. But you
yeah.
know what? It's even way bigger than you think. Okay? Because
Hmm.
let me tell you what Sister Sean sees.
Okay.
I want you to take a switchboard from back in the day with all the wires.
Hmm.
Okay? Now take the switchboard and now lay it down flat.
Okay.
Okay? So not it goes far past a project manager. It goes leadership headship. Okay, headship. So not just leadership, but the headship, right?
Hmm.
I see you and Linda like a switchboard. So you know how you have the pings that drop off that pop up on it like ping 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 ping. Here's how many different whatever companies are located, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's the switchboard of you and Linda being inserted in all across the
Hmm.
nation, going in to teach and train the headship how to teach the leadership how to lead in different
Hmm.
styles
Yes.
nationwide. I saw it plain as day,
Wow.
like across the
I love
nation.
it. I love that because that is exactly where we need to go and who we need to hit and the people we're going to hit because I think there's so much change that we can create with that.
That's
And
right.
you hit it at the right spot, you're going to be able to influence a lot of people along the way. So,
That's right. That's right. Because think of like an ice sculpture, right?
hmm.
You take this big old cold block, right? Or cold block,
Hmm.
right? And you take one instrument, one tool, and then you take the skill set of the person who's holding the tool, and it can sculpt from a box into a masterpiece.
Exactly.
That's what you guys are going to do as a team.
I love that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I
So
can't wait
so
to get going.
So break down to me STEM. What does STEM stand for?
Science, technology, electronics, and manufacturing. Yes. So it is the sciences of that. most of the time people of color just don't go to. If you
Okay.
look at the big picture of all the different ethnicities that are in STEM related positions,
Okay.
kids of color, students of color, people of color have a very small percent. I'm not sure what the percent is. It's probably less than 20%. It probably is more closer to 5 or 10. But there is so much education and so much learning in those areas. And um, when you think about the world's population and how it is changing, and to know that there are people that are out there that are going to have an impact in this area, that if there were a person of color, if if they've shown that this is a valuable education, that this is something that you can do, that you have the skill set, because we don't think that way all the time. We go to, we say we're, even I said it, I'm like, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not, you know um, technology is one thing. I'm a writer. Those are we go for the arts,
Okay.
and the sciences are so lacking and missing that perspective from a person of color, because it's so limited. And there are companies out there that want that perspective. They want to hear from people of color, but there's no path, no group to choose from, because students at the beginning are not being taught that this is a viable education, or this is some way they can go, or their skill set that has that brain of tinkering isn't fed. It isn't shown the direction to go. It's shown another different direction, or someone doesn't present it to them. And so we want teachers thinking this way. We want um, family members thinking this way, that this is an education that is available. And solar science is so focused on that. Now, uh, I always tell the director, he's a tech guy. He's that this is he's he that's where he went to school for. He is so passionate about it. He's a science teacher. He loves this stuff. My background has always been leadership. It's been writing. It's been the arts.
Okay.
But I do have an operations background. I know how to make things work.
That's
I
right.
know how to take the roadblocks away and ease the path. And so that's my job, and that's what I get a chance to do. But I'm also learning that if that we can help students of color see another career path that they're not seeing, and it is so needed. And so that's how I came across this, and it's a
Okay.
good friend of mine who owns this company, but
Okay.
I'm excited to work with him.
Okay, so now I saw. Now I'm giving you guys these other platforms that I'm seeing. Okay, so when I interviewed your wife, Sister Linda, she
Hmm.
shared with me that through making people aware of domestic violence, right? That she was the first religious or Christ based. Let's do a support group. Okay,
Yep.
but she had to be careful on to when to implement, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it, religiosity, and when
Yes.
not. Okay. And so now I see you and her as like if you were to write a to do list, right? How
Hmm.
are we going to get into every single school? How are we going to get into every single elementary school? And how are we going to get into every single high school in Oregon or in Washington, right? How are we literally going to get in? Not under the Christ centered umbrella, but under the people umbrella. Okay, you and she, right? So
Hmm.
it's like an umbrella under the umbrella that doesn't say JC. Okay,
Hmm.
and because this is so good. Train of thought. Come back. Come back. Come back. Okay, this is why. Oh, I lost my train of thought. No,
Mm.
no, no. Don't lose your train of thought. Where were you going with this, Sean? 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, because these tests that are given in our modern current modern current educational system, I remember when one of my kids took the SAT. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when another kid, the tests they have at the end of the school year
Yep.
or in the middle.
Absolutely.
Okay, so watch. She came home and it said that she should be work at the front desk. I go, that we are not listening to that test. That's a bunch of BS. We are not listening. You are not going to get put into that category. But I remember fighting. Or another one of my children. I vowed to never use negative connotations associated with my children because this
Mm.
this particular child never had a fast pace.
Okay.
There is no fast pace in this child. So it was forbidden in my mind or my mouth as a mom to never use the L word. Okay?
Okay.
Because it wasn't about the L, it was about the child was crafty and creative. Because I heard it said that if you want to save time and money, you find the laziest person, you find
Mm.
out what they do, and then you implement that because they're going to make the less amount of moves to get something done because they're not going to spend this needless energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember with this one particular, and the child that is an adult now in my world won't mind me sharing this, but I remember they actually put him in to a category with an IEP.
Hmm.
And then I was just like, oh no, he has no problem whatsoever figuring this stuff out. I had to fight to get him out of that
We
because
always, yes,
yes, that needs to not be. So it's like
yes.
I see you going in and it's just like, letting the creative imagination flow to like almost like is there going to be like a video done? Let's put a kid in a play area and do a video. And then this is a job. This is somebody's job, Brother Green. This is somebody's
Mm.
job. And then they watch the video to say, oh, this child has this gifting, or this child has this gifting, or this child, like just a quick to see how they interact. It could be done in
Yep.
kindergarten or preschool, Brother Green, so that we can
Absolutely.
alleviate all this other shenanigans as the years go by, and then we get stuck adults.
Exactly. Because we don't show students, we don't show kids in positions that that. So, for instance, we talk about, and with this company, we're creating some banners, and the on the banners they are, you can see it's a science project,
Okay,
but the kids are all diverse. They are from every form of life, every ethnicity,
that's
not
right.
just one. So you now see yourself on a banner. We're utilizing some technology in some of our videos where it again, students will see someone that looks like them in thinking this way, doing something technical versus doing something serviceable. Okay, like cleaning,
That's
and nothing
right.
wrong with cleaning, nothing wrong with those
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah.
But we need to see ourselves doing NASA, working at
That's right.
NASA,
That's right. That's
not,
right.
and that's what's going to fuel students for thinking that I can do this too. And
That's
so the
right.
visuals are huge. They're so huge. And we
Because
have to
he,
be creative.
because you know what? Let me just. I'm gonna brag on my dad for a second. Okay.
Okay.
So my dad was from the hood of all hoods in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
Okay. And like the projects that you never left your house without somebody in it.
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
if you did, when you came home, there would be nothing in it.
Yes.
Okay. So my dad, 6'4", jet blacker than you, black man. Okay. This is
Okay.
this is this is the dad who raised me. He was like a brother. Okay.
Okay.
But he used to have to cross over two railroad tracks to get to school, fighting gangs on the way to school, fighting gangs on the way home. Shares a story of how these cats came up on him, and his brothers, they left the crib, right? And my
Hmm.
dad was sliced by a Coke bottle in his face, and he wore a beard his entire life to not show the Coke bottle slash, right?
Wow.
My dad was genius, intelligent. He was so smart. But what did he do for a living? Janitorial work. When he went to go check in at college at ITT Peterson School of Business up in Seattle, Washington, do you know what they had him do? Learn how to repair a car wash station.
Wow.
They didn't tap into his brain. And my dad's been in heaven since 2000, but they didn't tap into his brain
Mm.
because my dad was scientific material, but they didn't tap into his brain. So I
It's
love
sad.
what you're doing.
Yeah, it's something that has to happen because we're missing out.
That's
Could
right.
I mean just imagine what he could have done if someone saw this and said, you know what, this is where he needs to go. This is what we need to do with him. And we got to get our teachers thinking that way. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about is getting the teachers to understand that you have to be able to see what's available. And I know it's easier to say, well, this student's getting an A, so this might be, this is probably the best student in the class. Well, you know what? It's not that black and white. It's not easy at all. You might not be reaching the smartest child in the class. You're teaching one way that's not connecting with them. And so that's why I'm so passionate. I work with this she's a clinical psychologist, and we spent some time talking about this type of education. And it's just fun to talk to her about it because it's so needed. And so very, very excited about that.
So Reese, RESS, write that down. RESS. Re-edu-
RESS.
right, yeah, it's RESS because an acronym's coming to me. RESS. Re-educating the educational system. Reese.
Reese. I love that.
Re-educating the educational system. Reese. Because Reese could be like, reset. Reese. We're part of the reset program. Re-educate. So you can't get mad. Okay. So think of this. Okay. How many decades went where church people stayed locked up inside of the church thinking you need to get more Bible? Good Lord Jesus. How
Yeah.
much Bible do we need to get? Right. Let's all stay shacked up in our little pews, going to church 9 days a week. Right. And I'm a blood bought believer. I walk, live, breathe in Second Corinthians or in Acts, in the book of Acts. I
Mm-hmm.
walk, live,
Mm-hmm.
breathe in the book of Acts. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
you and I know what that means, right? But
Absolutely.
we cannot be hanging out locked up in the pews thinking we need more Jesus when there's a whole world out here where we need to take our footsteps to make the imprint, right?
Absolutely.
Possessing and taking dominion in the different mountains. And education is one of the mountains. So is family. So that is what you and Linda are doing.
I love it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. I am so proud of you two. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to literally being able to have further interviews with you. And and I also commend you on choosing to partner together as a married team in a business.
Thank you.
You
It's always
know,
something we wanted to do.
yeah, that because that's huge. Because instead of raise kids, and then instead of you being here and her being there, because in our book, the Bible, it says two are better than one. For if
Yes, it
one
does.
falls, he has the other to pick him up. But woe be to him who falls and has no one to pick him up. And it also says a three-strand cord is not easily broken. So you two
Absolutely.
intertwining your gifts like that, that is powerful. So
Thank you.
I would like you, Brother Green, because we got excited on this call and we're over where we're supposed to be. I would like you to speak directly to men, and I want you to bless men. I want you to I can only okay, call them forward. Call them forward in who they've been created to be through a blessing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fellas, there's so much potential in what you have available as a man. There are so many things you can do, and there are so many God given talents that you have that need to be utilized. But we have to be creative. We have to take that step forward. We have to, when we hesitate, push ourselves outside our comfort zone so that we can be great and so that we can realize all the things that God has for us. And men of God, you know what? There's that spiritual side that you have to connect with. It is there, it's available. It's to make you the complete man you're going to be. And I promise you, you will be fulfilled. I know I'm going to be fulfilled because I'm going to test that theory and realize how true it is. I know it, I've seen it in other people. It is there for you to take and do. And all you have to do is ask, and I'll be there to support you and help you. So if you got any questions, send them my way because I'm excited to be a part of your mission and your journey to be the complete man you need to be.
Amen. Amen. And so in the about in this YouTube video will be all the contact information and how to get a hold of Brother Green. Thank you. Have your, I always tell my pastor's wife, we're friends with our pastors, and I
Mm-hmm.
always tell her every time your husband preaches a sermon, I just could just pick him up and shake him because it's so good. So, but I can't shake him. So if you could just give your husband a big hug, right? So then I tell you to tell Linda to give you a big hug because Sister Sean was so excited.
I will.
Okay. And so for all of our viewers, I just want to thank you. And we will have you back on again because you and Linda are going to continue to progress. And I believe Reese is going to be part of the process.
There you go.
Okay. And like write down the names of, look up all the elementary schools, all of the colleges, or all the high schools, because now's the time. Now's the time. You have an open, wide platform. Now's the time. And so for all of our viewers, I just want to thank you until our next episode of Sagionic 1027. May the Lord bless you. May the
Mm.
Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon me. Blessings. Bye.